Good morning, Internet land. Welcome back. We're just waiting on our straggler Instagram to come on, and then we will be live everywhere, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Mo, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. I had a good Thanksgiving break. Got lots of good quality time with family. I hope everybody had a warm Thanksgiving with lots of good food.
Yeah, my Thanksgiving definitely it had the lots of good food thing checked for
Yeah.
sure. We're finally done with the leftovers. Okay, Instagram is live now, so we can go ahead and get
Yeah.
started.
Great. Welcome to DIY Wellness, the show for people taking personal growth into their own hands. On this show, Brian and I, both life coaches, we're exploring different strategies for improving quality of life and well-being in our lives. So we explore a different strategy or idea or approach each episode. And our hope is that you will just kind of form your own opinions, your own informed opinions about these strategies, these ideas. Take what you love and throw out anything that you don't.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to dive in today to the two different kinds of stress that there are. There's distress and eustress. Not all stress is bad stress, it turns out. So today we're going to get into why stress can affect our health negatively, but how not all stress is bad. Then we're going to really get into the two different kinds of stress, how you can tell which one it is, how you can move from one to the other. And then finally, Mo is going to explain a concept called the Cartman Drama Triangle, which will help you understand where you are in your mindset around stress, how to interpret the stressful events so that you can move from distress to eustress if it's possible in your particular situation.
Yeah. So I think in general, anytime that somebody hears the word stress, it has a negative connotation that comes along with it. You know, a lot of times when you go to see a doctor because you're having some sort of ailment, they'll say, "Oh yeah, stress can contribute to this, stress and lack of sleep," right? Um, and so we
A good doctor
generally
will tell you that. You're lucky if the doctor incorporates that.
that's true. That's fair. But in general, it's got like this really bad rap. But there are different kinds of stress, as Brian mentioned earlier. There is the kind of stress that creates problems for our bodies, that creates anxiety and overwhelm, and generally just a breakdown of our well-being. But there's also a type of stress that does the opposite. Um, the interesting thing is that both kinds of stress feel bad, but they
Woohoo!
don't have the same. Yeah, woo, yeah,
Happy
they don't have
holidays,
the
everyone.
same outcome. So Brian and I were talking about this the other day because we were kind of prepping this topic, and Brian described it as the kind of stress that turns coal into diamonds. So there's the
Mhm.
kind of stress that breaks things, and then there's the kind of stress that compresses an experience in a way that beautifies it, improves it, creates freedom, those sorts of things.
Yeah, you know what just popped into my mind? The coal versus diamonds, I think, is a great one, but it's also like thinking about the human body. It made me think about like a bone snapping, and it's like that's obviously very distressful, right? Distressing if a bone snaps, but you
Mhm.
have to do if you go to the gym, for example, and you push it too far, then your bone will snap. But if you don't push it too far, or your muscle will tear. But if you don't, you'll actually tear your muscles in this sort of micro, tiny way, which is good stress because you
Yeah,
get built back stronger the next day. You get built back stronger because the stress you put your muscles under was manageable
yeah.
stress. It was time bound stress. And so, because of that, it's good. It has a positive, beneficial impact as opposed to when you overdo it at the gym and it has a negative impact.
Yeah, yeah, so in some ways, it's like if you get pushed too far, like, in a way that feels damaging, then that's distress. But if you're pushing yourself in a way that has potential for growth, so, like, working out your muscles, but also, you know, some forms of discomfort, for example, like, it may be stressful to go to a job interview, right? But it has the potential for growth, it has the potential for you to learn something from it, it has the potential for you to get a job, right? That's eustress. And I think another kind of way of thinking about this to discern the difference is that whole comfort zone
Mm.
concept, where it's like I will feel uncomfortable if I do something that doesn't feel familiar to me. But doing something that doesn't feel familiar, doing something that feels a little bit uncomfortable, as long as it doesn't make me unsafe, has the potential to help me expand that comfort zone, help me grow personally. But if I push it too far, if I go and do something that's so uncomfortable that it makes me feel unsafe, then it's going to induce panic. Then it's going to induce, a pretty intense anxiety, right? And
Mhm.
what steps qualify as distress or eustress depend not only on your comfort level, but also on how we interpret the experience, right? Because if I feel unsafe, regardless of whether I am or not, then it may be distressing for me, right? But what one person feels safe doing and what another person feels safe doing don't always 100% overlap. And so it really just depends on you and what your comfort level is. But all we're saying is that a certain level of distress, or not distress, but discomfort doesn't always mean it equals bad, breakdown, harmful kind of stress. It doesn't have to be. And the more that we're able to perceive the moments that a uncomfortable situation could be a form of eustress, the better we're going to be able to take advantage of those growth opportunities, expand our
Mhm.
comfort zone, and overall feel better, more free, more comfortable just in our
Yeah.
everyday lives.
Because it comes down to like a mindset thing. So it's like
Mhm.
your capability, um how capable you feel about surmounting or overcoming the challenge that's in front of you that's causing the stress, it will directly correlate to whether you feel it as eustress or distress. So like an example would be like public speaking, right? Like a person who's not that afraid of public speaking, like to go out in front of an arena of thousands of people might actually be good stress. Like it's going to push them a little bit past their comfort zone and they're going to grow. But a person who has an abject fear of public speaking, like they should start their journey towards overcoming that fear, if that's something they want to do, at a book club with 8 people, right? Like, so for them to try to jump out on the stage might actually be very distressing and then cause like
Right.
post-traumatic stress because they've traumatized themselves by pushing too far. So you
Mhm.
want to just really like think about your own mindset too and your own capability. Like do I feel capable? Do I feel like this is possible? Do I feel like this is surmountable? When we have a strong sense of self-efficacy, whether it's in general or about that specific task in front of us, we are more likely to feel the stress related to that task as challenging rather than distressful.
Well, and also your level of capability or the types of things that will be the positive kind of stress also depends on how much you're supporting yourself, because there have been situations in my own life where I was like, "Oh my god, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this." But then there was another part of my brain that was like, "I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm doing it," you know? And if you are willingly, not forcibly, encouraging yourself to do something, even if there's a part of you that has a strong amount of doubt and a intense amount of fear, if there's still some amount of belief that you can do the thing, then it could be highly, highly stressful, but still be positive stress. And we keep using the term eustress for positive stress, and it's not YOU stress, it's EU stress. And so the reason that it is coined that term is because it's actually got like this like prefix on the front. EU is a Greek prefix for good. So good stress, literally. You stress, good stress. So just to clarify, because I remember the first time that I heard that term, I literally thought that somebody was saying YOU stress. And I was like, that's
You
weird.
stress. You
You
stress
stress.
me
Yeah.
out.
No, it's not that. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So just to
Yeah.
clarify that.
So this is great. So the takeaway here, I think, for people is like knowing what you're up against, and is what you're up against automatically distressful, like if you're experiencing it as distressful, or is there a way to make it you stressful, right? Like
Mhm.
is there a way to modulate what you're going through. If there isn't, then obviously that's where stress management tools come into place, and that's another whole topic. But we're here talking about the difference between your mindset when something's come at you, and using your mindset as much as you can to move out of the realm of distress to eustress when it's possible.
Yeah. So when you really boil it down, the thing that makes the difference between whether you experience a stressful experience as distress or eustress is whether you perceive it as a challenge, as in something you can rise to the occasion for, or if you perceive it as a victimization.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime that something pseudo negative happens in our life, we are going to have an opportunity to kind of determine or perceive it one way or the other.
It's so
Right.
right.
So when people talk about victim mindset, like it's you're either perceiving yourself as being victimized or you're perceiving yourself as being challenged.
Yeah, that's huge. In fact, there's a new body of research out there about post-traumatic stress and how, you know, two people can go to the same war-torn land, but only one comes back with post-traumatic stress. Like, why is that, right? They went through the same trauma. And there's a body of research kind of suggesting that depends on how you perceive the event. Like, did you perceive it as overwhelming and you were helpless in that situation? And you may have really been helpless. So it's not all a matter of only perception. It's not about that, but it's like the perception dictates whether later you will have post-traumatic stress symptoms or not, like depending on how much your mindset interpreted that event as something possible for you to survive or not. The fact of your survival is evident because here you are dealing with post-traumatic stress, but you didn't know that at the time, right? And so whether you thought you could survive, whether you thought you could manage, will dictate whether you end up with PTSD oftentimes or not. So I think this might be a good place, since we're talking so much about perception now, to get into a little bit the Karpman drama triangle versus the empowerment dynamic. And so people can kind of see how they can shift from the drama triangle to the empowerment dynamic.
Yeah. So these two, I guess, frameworks that Brian has just named, the Karpman drama triangle and the empowerment dynamic, they're two triangles. So one looks like this, one looks like this, and it's a way of visually representing how you interpret a situation that's happening to you. So for example, we're going to start with the drama triangle. Imagine that there's three different people or aspects of a situation in the triangle. At the bottom, you have yourself, which is the victim. If we're interpreting ourselves as being victimized, we have ourselves at the bottom, perceiving ourselves as a victim. Brian, can you think of an example of like a situation so we can kind of talk through like
for sure
specific...
Yeah, like you might be like a Thanksgiving family dinner kind of a thing, right? Where like the in-law comes over and she doesn't like the mom and she's trying to get you, the son who's caught in between, on her side, right? And so she'll say something like, every time your mom comes through, she like runs over my flower beds, and she's feeling like very, very victimized about the whole thing. And so she's trying to get me on her side. She's feeling like a victim of the flower bed thing, and using the holiday dinner to try to triangulate me and get me on her side.
Right. So somebody who is feeling like they've been victimized is then looking for someone else to make the situation better for them. So we call the person that they're trying to get to fix the situation for them the savior in this drama triangle. Then you have on the other corner, so you have victim, savior, and persecutor in the situation that Brian offered up to us. I believe it was your mom.
The other mom, yeah.
Or, I don't know if it's you, but like, yes.
No, it's definitely a hypothetical. For any of my relatives listening out there, this is a hypothetical.
Okay, great. Sorry, I made it. So no, you have the person who's feeling victimized, the person that they're turning to try to get them to save them, and then the person who they're feeling attacked by, right? Yes. And so it sounds like it's just like that's the situation, but really, if this person were to interpret the situation slightly differently, then the dynamic shifts. So you can go from this Karpman drama triangle into the empowerment dynamic, which involves going from perceiving yourself as a victim to perceiving yourself as a
creator.
as being challenged. What's the word that they use for the empowerment?
Creator. A
Creator. Yes.
Being a
Yes. So
creator.
somebody who has the ability, the freedom, the creativity to find a solution to help themselves in some way. In this case, when you flip it, you're not looking for somebody else to change or correct the situation for you. You may look for support, but you're ultimately the person that's figuring out how to handle the situation.
Yeah.
And when
And the
you flip
savior,
that,
sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
The savior becomes coach in that situation. That's actually
Yes.
what David Emerald, who's the inventor of the empowerment dynamic piece, when he flipped the Cartman drama triangle, this was his whole goal. It's like the Cartman drama triangle was invented by Cartman as a way to explain the communication dynamics that are most prevalent in our society and that
Yeah.
cause drama. And saying the way to flip that, David Emerald's way, was to not see yourself as a victim, but see yourself as a creator. Instead of being the bottom of the triangle, you're the top of the triangle. And as the creator, then you don't need a savior, you need a coach. And you don't look
Yeah.
at the persecutor as an attacker anymore. They become a challenger. That's literally what David Emerald even calls it, the challenger. So you go from victim to creator.
Yeah.
And then you have now a challenger and a coach instead of a savior and a persecutor. You can even feel in the terminology how much more empowering that is.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of I'm being victimized and I'm looking for someone to save me, it's I'm being challenged and I'm looking for somebody who can help me think this through so
Yeah,
that I can handle
support.
the situation myself.
Yeah, exactly. And the beauty of this triangle is that it doesn't flip the savior and say from savior to nobody. Like, it's not saying do this all by yourself. That's not true to the human condition. We're social creatures. We're meant to live in community. We evolved in tribes. We want a sense of belonging. So having that support system is a key element of this. It's just looking at that support as a coach or a support rather than a savior. It's like, do it with me
Mhm,
rather than do it for me. That's like harkens to the
mhm.
whole reason we do the show the way we do it yourself wellness, because we know that you have to take personal growth into your own hands. But at the same time, the reason this podcast exists is because you don't have to do it all by yourself. You have our
Yeah,
support, you know what I mean? And you have the support of other people in the DIY wellness community and the people in your lives. And so that's the whole idea here, is that you want to be able to know you can do it yourself, but that you don't have to do it all by yourself.
yeah, yeah. So this shift from feeling like somebody else has to save you to knowing that you can help yourself, but also you can do it in community. That is what transfers something from being distressful and harmful to your body to being challenging in a way that is positively stressful, that is going to create growth and overall benefits in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. So have fun this week, everybody, looking at the stressful situations in your life and saying, where am I feeling like a victim here? And is there a way I can feel like a creator? And see if you can
Mhm,
shift any of your distress into empowerment and eustress during the coming week.
mhm. Yeah,
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate you so
yeah.
much. We love you all. Thank you for being here. We will see you next week on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time for another episode of DIY Wellness. In the meantime, keep taking personal growth into your own hands, remembering that you do not have to do it